much for joining me on my episode today. This is Safe Space with Shay. We are going to be talking about loss. What does it look and feel like when processing grief through non-death related loss? And today I have certified grief counselor Serena Johnson joining me today. Welcome, Serena.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you, Shay.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you for being here.
Of
I want to
course.
let the viewers know how I came across your profile and your
Okay.
work. So, I'm on Instagram a lot, and I'm always looking for great content. And so, Serena
Yeah.
had a reel talking about non death related loss. And I thought, oh my God, like this is a topic that needs to be talked about because me personally,
Yeah.
I went through a divorce and the loss that I experienced post that was so surreal and like not a lot of people talk about that type of loss. So I
Yeah.
appreciated that post so much. I wanted to have her on and she was so willing to do that. So I appreciate, that content that was relatable and that's not often talked about.
Absolutely. I'm glad that it resonated with you. Yeah, and I'm here. I'm glad to help and here to help others as well too.
Thank you so much. So before we get into this conversation, tell me, how did you come about with Robin's Cove Counseling Service?
Good question. So, Robin was my mother's name. So, my business is actually named after my mom. My mom died 6 years ago, suddenly after a heart attack. And so it was life shaking, life altering, heartbreaking for me. My mom was my everything. And so to lose someone who was center and wisdom and counsel and love and grace and so much to me in an instant, here one day and gone the next, rocked my entire world. So I personally had to walk through a season of grief, some of which was ugly, lonely, embarrassing, and heavy. And I came to understand that I couldn't do it by myself. There was no way that I could have navigated through the spaces of grief in the dark place that I was in. And so I began to join grief support groups. I allowed myself to acknowledge that I was grieving. I didn't deny myself access to healing. And so after I walked through my own personal heavy space in my grief journey, I knew that I needed to give language to other people. I knew that other people didn't have the tools that it took to walk through grief. And so I decided to become a grief counselor because I have 4 sons. I'm married with 4 sons. And my youngest son cried 30 nights straight, Shay. And it was nothing that I could do to console him other than cry with him. And so, on top of my own grief, seeing his, I wanted to give language on how I can help him. So, I went to school to become a grief counselor, ultimately to help my family, and now I get to help others. So, Robin Cove Counseling Services, my mom's name was Robin. Cove is a place of safety and counseling services. And so that's here I am today with Robin's Cove Counseling Services, wanting to give hope, healing, love, and encouragement to those who are walking through loss.
And you're exactly doing that and in a way of
Thank
honoring your
you.
mom in such a beautiful way. So,
Thank
Serena, hats
you.
off to you. I love that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so we are going to dive into these questions.
I'm
Okay,
ready.
awesome. So my first question is, historically and socially, we've always heard about heartbreak, and now we are hearing about grief, a relationship. Is there a difference?
Yes, and so I actually love that you are bringing to light that heartbreak and breakup of relationships is an actual loss. Because we are only made to feel in culture that we've only suffered a loss and our grief is only valid when someone has died. So here we are walking through massive amount of losses and never having recognition of them because no one died. So absolutely, it is very valid to have grief after you've lost a loss of a relationship, after a heartbreak. And here's why: where you find attachment, there's a bond that was built in that relationship. There was purpose that was established. There was meaning that was being fulfilled in your life through that relationship. There was probably a building of long lasting love in that relationship. When all of that is here today and gone tomorrow, whether that was suddenly or you saw that breakup happening, you are stripped away of everything that I just named: attachment, purpose, meaning, love. All of those things that tied and anchored your heart in a space of safety in that relationship is now gone. And so, absolutely, heartbreak from loss of a relationship, a breakup, divorce, I know we'll get more into types of losses, are all valid losses because you lost attachment and love and meaning from someone that you were expecting to build a lasting love with. So absolutely, it's very valid and it's a valid loss.
Got you. Thank you so much. Because I think too, when you hear about heartbreak, it's just like, oh, you're brokenhearted, you'll get over it, right? But
Yeah.
I feel like you put that grief label on it, like it really
Yeah.
it hits different, right? And I think, people kind of lean more into like, okay, what is that? Like, so I'm
Right.
so glad you were able to explain that.
Absolutely. Because our hearts, I think that we kind of have a mentality in our society like, don't wear your feelings on your sleeves. We are human. We are not machines. I am not AI. I feel all the things. And so
Yeah.
when my heart was attached to something that brought meaning and purpose, and I no longer have that, my heart feels that. And heartache is real. So I want to validate that heartache is a real thing. It's not us being in our feelings and I'm overly sensitive. I'm a human and I have real emotions, and I need to lean in to the ways that my heart breaks when loss occurs.
Okay, I love that. Excellent, excellent explanation. Thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
So the next question, in what ways can non-death related loss show up in someone's life?
Such a good question because of how we entered into this conversation with me saying that in our culture, we only recognize when someone dies, right? You show up to the funeral, you give your flowers, your condolences, and then you give them food and you love on them for 2 weeks, and then you don't talk to the person again. And we only acknowledge that as loss. There are tons of losses, and I'm going to name a few of them, some of which people may not even have recognized as a loss. Remember, I told you loss is you no longer have a thing that you had attachment, meaning, purpose, fulfillment, and love in. So there's a variety of things. I can't name all of them, but I'm going to name a few of them. Non death related losses can be from a separation or a divorce. Why? For the reasons that I named. Most certainly, you got married thinking you were going to have a lasting love, stability, safety, security, and find purpose in your marriage. So, separation and divorce are a loss. Infertility is a loss. It's a loss of a dream. It's a loss of a hope and expectation to have a family. Loss of your health is a non death related loss because now I lost my ability to feel like my life has any level of longevity and maybe strength. So loss of health is a loss. Loss of your job. When you get fired or laid off, or I had to quit my job because of a certain reason, that's loss of stability, loss of income. For some people, their jobs are loss of purpose, of who I am. Bankruptcy is loss of income, loss of financial security. Aging is another loss. I'm losing my youth. Lots of losses, loss of a dream, loss of your innocence. People who have been victimized, unfortunately, it's a loss of your innocence. Loss of my ability to feel like my body is sacred. Pandemic was a huge loss of community, loss of routine, way of life, and incarceration. The last one I'll leave off with is a loss of freedom. You may have thought my life was going to be, A through Z, and here I am at B, and I'm in jail for the rest of my life. So I've lost freedom, loss of time, loss of connection with people that I love. There are a variety of losses, but I wanted to share those because those are really, most people don't look at those as loss, but they're very, very common.
So true, so true. I'm so glad that you named those because some of those I'm like, oh, yeah, that's another one. That's another one,
See?
And
Yes.
go through life just not realizing at the core how life can really how loss, I'm sorry, can really just kind of give us a punch in the stomach and we don't even
So
realize it and
true.
we don't attend to it in that way.
Mm-hmm. So many of us have holes in our heart that are just loss after loss after loss after loss, but we don't calculate it. We don't give voice to it. We don't recognize it. We can't navigate through it because we're like, I didn't. Nobody died, so why am I tripping? Why am I overly sensitive? Why am I? And it's no, you had an attachment, purpose, meaning, found love and satisfaction in something, not just someone who is no longer here. And those are worth being processed through. You got to navigate through those spaces of grief. Those are real losses.
Absolutely. And as you were speaking, I thought about how often, especially in people of color, how that can show up as irritability or hopelessness or
Yes.
no, like,
Yes. All of
wow.
those things, Shayla, you are naming them: anxiety, depression, loss of your identity. Like, who am I now? A lot of people start having GI problems, heart palpitations, sleep disturbances. I can't eat the same way, or I'm overeating, or I can't eat. I become, isolated. I no longer want to be around people. Mental fog. The list goes on and on. Our bodies, it's not just a heartbreak and it stays in our emotions. Our bodies physically feel the impact of loss.
Oh my God. Okay, this is such a good dialogue. Okay, so like, oh my God, because I'm like always wanting to help somebody, right? And
Yeah,
I
of course.
get
Of
it. Some
course.
people like, they like, okay, you pushing, I'm not ready or whatever, but just how
Yeah.
can we like support people like who are dealing with this? Like, what's a good way to kind of engage and just see?
Yeah, that's such a good question. It's not until you suffer loss that you can really, really understand that depth of sorrow and despair that that person has to face daily. So the first thing I would say is to really acknowledge that that person has suffered something so devastating that they're now every day having to figure out, how do I live without that person and that thing? How do I face every day, Shayla, I wake up with the reality of my loss. And you have probably some that I named on that list. Every day you have to face the reality of that loss. And so when I encourage people who are supporting someone who is grieving, the first thing I say is to just be present and to acknowledge the fact that they lost something. We live in a culture where we're like, brush it off, go fast, go forward, go high. Slow down and acknowledge that they suffered a loss, and that you can literally just be present with them so they don't feel like, let me shake it off and pretend that my world wasn't just turned upside down. So being present is the biggest thing. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to try to blow grief away. Be present with them. You can acknowledge their loss and let them know, I'm so sorry that you lost X, Y, and Z. I don't have the answers, but I want to be here to love on you and support you. Check on them. Remember that they're having to navigate through that every single day of their lives. And sometimes even remembering anniversaries is helpful too. If it was the anniversary of, a miscarriage or the death of their loved one or a divorce, being present with them is the biggest thing, because honestly, there isn't anything that you can say to fix anyone's grief. But if they know that in the most heaviest, loneliest, darkest place of my life, that someone sees me and they care, it gives them hope to take another step forward. So that's the biggest thing that I would say, just to be so present and let them know that they're not alone.
I love that. I love that. And as you were talking to, I thought about how a lot of people are uncomfortable sitting with someone in
Oh
pain because
gosh.
they're uncomfortable with their own.
Yes.
And it's
Yes, Shayla.
so, and you had made a point about like a person going through their own loss. Maybe they're able to show up different because they've
Right.
been in those shoes, right? And so
Exactly.
it might
Exactly.
be, okay, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, well said. Exactly.
Awesome. Okay, so my next question. What are some ways the person grieving can care for themselves as they navigate loss? And
That's
what should
so
they
good.
I'm sorry, and what should they seek outside support if or when their grief might be overwhelming?
Good questions. Okay. I love every question that you're asking, because you're shedding light to the necessity of navigating through grief. The fact that you said, how can someone care for themselves? We don't live in a culture that says to care for yourself when you're grieving. Because we're told, shake it off, girl. Don't let that thing hold you down. You keep moving forward. No, I need to be able to have self compassion, is what I call it, is what I tell my clients all the time. I have to care enough about the state of my heart that if even if no one else sees it and can reach me in that place, I can sit with myself and recognize ways that I need to care for this broken heart. And so I often tell my clients, slow down. We have everywhere to go, everywhere fast. We need to get there fast and in a hurry. And when you are grieving, you feel like life is upside down, going in slow motion. So the first thing I say, so that they don't feel overwhelmed in this grief space that they're living in, slow down. Learn that I'm not in a rat race. I can't keep up. I may not be able to make all the events. I can't show up in the way that I used to. I can't be all and do all the things. And so giving myself compassion enough to say, I'm going to take it step by step, slowly. And I also suggest that people don't overcommit. You know how we like to show up for all the things, Shayla? We were talking about that when we first started. All the things, right? I can't be all the things to all the people when my heart is literally sinking. And so I give grace and compassion enough to myself to be able to say the word no. It is not a cuss word. It is a boundary that allows me to have balance between showing up and understanding that I cannot do what I used to do. And so no was a secret weapon of mine that most people weren't used to me having to say, because we like to show up to all the things. So slowing down, being able to have boundaries and balance and saying no. If I have to find a way to listen to my body by going to bed early, if I have to listen to my body by showing up, and maybe, for a couple months, I need to go start getting massages to relieve that physical tension that has been built up in my body from the angst and from the sorrow. Tending to your body also, for some people, get acupuncture. Some women say, you know what, I'm going to go and have splurge on coffee and get my nails done, or I'm going to start working out, figuring out a way that I can physically tend to this body who is housing sorrow and may feel all the tension thereof. And also for them to excuse themselves from not showing up, from not being all the things and being everywhere, like communicating with the people who love you and who you are responsible for. I had to verbalize to my family in order for me to take care of myself. I needed to get myself off the hook of feeling guilty and literally tell them, I need time to regroup. You all may see me cry and it's okay. You may see me pull back and I just need moments to regroup. I can't rush myself through this. And it took off that push that I would have had to tell myself to get over it, because I had to tell everybody else, don't have any expectations of me right now. Allow me to take the time that I need. And so all of that is encompassed in having self-compassion. That's what self-care looks like. And there's many ways, but those are some of the ways that you can care for yourself while you're grieving.
I love that. I love that. And I'm glad you mentioned the physical part too, because that's so important.
Yeah.
Exercise, releasing that, stress
Yes.
in your body.
Yes.
Also eating right, people.
Yes.
For
It's
me,
important.
that was a key thing. I recently cut out soda. I lost a couple pounds.
So good.
And berries like as my little, late night snack. So I
I
think
love that.
those little things matter, and I think we don't give ourselves enough acknowledgement when we make those small changes. A lot of times we
True.
want to look at the bigger change, but those small changes they add up, and
They
so
sure do.
that's important. I know for me personally, that's what helped.
Yeah, and I love that you were even talking about the nutrition aspect, because you are fueling your body. We are what we eat. And so when your body is feeling the impact of loss, you want to give it all the minerals and vitamins and nutrients that it needs in order to be able to show up physically each day. So I love that you do that.
Yes, absolutely. So, when should an individual tap into some grief support if if it's getting overwhelming?
Yeah, good,
Some,
good question.
yeah, they
There are
should look.
some telltale signs,
Okay.
and I get asked that very often. When you just feel stuck, I can't move forward. I can't. There's nothing to go back to. I literally have no idea what to do in life. You have that stuck feeling, but when you stay stuck for an extended period of time, get some help. It's like somebody throwing out a lifeline to you. I'm in the middle of this ocean and I'm drowning, and that's what support does for you. It throws you that lifeline and it brings you back to the surface with support without you doing it alone. If you're unable to function, your day to day activity and routine, you literally cannot show up to do it. Now, that happens in the beginning, but after an extended period of time, I cannot show up to work. I cannot take care of myself physically. I cannot care for anyone else. All of your daily functions are completely altered because you're in a state of grief. You should look to get support. If you have isolated yourself completely, now I know that we all need a space of solitude. Solitude is very healthy. It clears your mind and your thoughts from all the outside extra noise. But when you have completely shifted from a space of community, someone seeing you and loving on you and knowing how you're doing, and you're in a place of isolation for too long, it's a dangerous place because there's no one that can see you, whisper love, words of love, hope, or encouragement. If you're isolating, you should absolutely seek counseling. If you recognize that you've had an extended period of anxiety, it just won't go away. An extended period of depression, it just won't let up. You should absolutely seek counseling. And lastly, there's many reasons to seek counseling or grief support. Would be if you're suicidal. Sometimes loss hits some of us, Shayla, in a way where it literally is life altering, and you almost come to the point where you realize or believe that I have no other reason to live. They were my everything. It was my everything. That job, then you fill in the blank, was my everything. So what do I have to live for? And I don't take that lightly, that sometimes we get into a place of hopelessness is what that is. And so you should seek support for any of those reasons. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And
Yeah.
that's so important. I'm glad you took the time to highlight that because a lot of people, they don't, they're like afraid to deal with it or don't know how to show up for something
Absolutely.
like suicidal, right? But like you said, it goes back to being present with them in that moment, you know?
Yes.
For
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes even the person doesn't know,
Yeah.
that I am in a space that I'm just like swallowed up by despair. And
Right.
so when you have other people who can see you and are near you and are around you, it's so important, which is going back to your point, why it's so good to be present, because you're able to say, okay, she hasn't come out the house in the last 3, 4 days. You know what? She hasn't been returning any of my phone calls. Her comments are really, really dark. And so sometimes that person
Mhm.
may need their accountability, their support, their community to say, hey, have you ever thought about grief support? Have you ever thought about grief counseling? That's appropriate
Yeah.
to do as well too, to show up for that person when they in themselves can't show up for themselves, to acknowledge that.
Absolutely. And that's a key point too. Asking, have they considered, not saying you need.
Yes.
I think when it's you need,
Yes.
people get defensive. So it's
They
like, no,
sure do.
have to ask the open-ended questions
You
because
sure
others
do.
shut down. What
Absolutely.
Yeah, one of the points you made too, I know you talked about like someone who isolates from,
Yeah.
people and don't want to deal. But on the
Yeah.
opposite side of that, what if you have a person who's just constantly, going and socializing, like trying to just avoid that? Is that
Yes, that's a thing too, Shay. I'm so glad you mentioned that. That's a thing too. So like on this, like a two-sided coin, either I'm completely isolated or I'm jumping into all the things because I'm denying my grief. I'm suppressing it. I don't want to feel it. So I'm going to stay busy. I'm going to show up to all the things. I want to laugh. I want to dance. I want to sing. I want to be away from my grief. And it's going to find you. It
yeah.
finds you in the place of isolation.
Mhm.
It has to come up. It's going to find you in that place of you being a busybody and trying to busy away your grief. It's going to find you. And so I use the word solitude with my clients because it's a fine balance, right? A fine balance between isolating yourself, because we all need a space of solitude, like I said, to shut off the noise. And on the other end of somebody who's busying away their grief, there is a healthy way to cope where I'm in a space of community. I can be around people. I can laugh. I don't have to sit in my room and cry all day. I can show up. So that is a healthy way to navigate through your grief. But when you are using that to avoid your grief, then you need to get counseling. Yeah, there is a difference.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, because I think we have
Yeah.
a tendency to look for a person who isolates and not necessarily, like you said, on the other side of that,
Yes.
someone's always busy. And it's kind of like, what's
Yes.
always going? But it's just good to tap in to that too.
Absolutely.
And I
Yeah.
also wanted to kind of pick up too on the balance portion. I mean, on the balance topic of that. So balance is so important because I think another thing people don't realize, from what I heard, right? I mean, I went through
Yeah.
divorce,
Yeah.
but I haven't lost anyone close to me. But what I can say is that it's like waves, right? You get these emotions that kind of
Yep.
come in and you experience and you feel all the feels and then it
Hmm.
subsides. But I think a lot of people, they don't allow that wave to come in. They just automatically like push
Hmm.
that down. And I think it's so important for
So
people
true.
to understand that's a healthy way of
Yes.
processing your loss, right?
Absolutely, it is. And waves is a good word. That's how a lot of therapists and grief educators will describe it because you're not always at that low place. It's not always heavy. I'm not always with the windows drawn and underneath my covers crying. There are moments where you ride that wave. Some days that you feel low, and some days I can function. I can go out. I want to go out to eat. Yes, I want to go show up at the gathering, and I may be fine all day, and something may trigger. It could be a song. It could be I'm seeing a husband and a wife down the street on my way home from that gathering where I had that high, and they're holding hands after I'm suffering a loss from a divorce. And so here we go. That wave, we're going back down again. So there are waves, and we have to give ourselves permission to enjoy the highs because our hearts need that hope and that life again. But also embracing the wave when it crashes down low, because it's our heart also accepting the fact that we're navigating through loss and giving ourselves time to process that. So waves is a good word. That's exactly what happens. We actually call it grief waves. It's a real thing.
Good. No, yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I definitely wanted to kind of just put that out there. Like, that's healthy. That's a
It's
normal process of grief.
healthy.
And when I'm supporting people who are grieving, I let
Yeah.
them know that that's normal.
It
That's okay.
is.
And
It
so I
is.
feel give them like a sense of comfort, like, oh my God, thank you, right?
Good.
Versus someone like, not knowing how to deal. So I think I just wanted to put
So
emphasis on that.
good. And I want to
Yeah.
put emphasis on the fact that you said normal, Shay, because that's important. Because we almost feel like something's wrong with me. I'm going crazy and I'm the only one. So when you say it's normal, it allows them to embrace the fact that this is a healthy process, a healthy part of the process, and I'm not going crazy. So I love
Yeah.
that. I love that you're validating that it's real.
Yes, thank you so much. And that's why I also wanted for you to address the question when people are feeling overwhelmed, when should they seek support? So that we're getting
Yes.
a full picture here.
Yes, absolutely. Such a good question.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's all I had. Did you want to add anything? What are your takeaways for the viewers? What do you want them to
Oh,
take away from this discussion?
that it is normal. I'm going to go back to your word
Yeah.
to have to process grief. We are not AI. We are not machines where we have a turn on and turn off switch. We are meant to love, to host love. When we have loss, we are also meant to navigate through those spaces of loss. And it is okay for us to have to feel the feels. I know we're in a culture where we're just like, I'm not going to feel, I'm not going to be in my emotions or all those things. It's okay to feel the feels because you're human. Process and navigate through your loss and give yourself self-compassion enough to allow yourself to feel that heartache, but to still let a breath of love and hope and support and encouragement in, knowing that you won't always be in that place, but love and loss are a part of life.
Ooh, love and law. I love that. Ooh, that
Hmm.
was good.
Thank you. It's real.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is. It is. And, being a human, we have these beautiful human experiences that we give
Yes.
ourselves permission to open up, and I'm
Yeah.
saying it really can work in our favor.
Absolutely. I believe that
Yeah.
100%.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you guys all for joining and viewing. I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys remember that you are worthy, you are deserving, and always find ways to honor yourself. Until next time, bye.
Bye.